I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and this is iCrime. It's supposed to be a peaceful day of fishing on the Columbia River for Brian Mays and his friends Chris McMahon and Ronnie Durham. Instead, it turns into a harrowing crash with a 31-foot powerboat.
Hey! Hey! Oh my God!
It all happens so fast. The three fishermen barely have time to frantically wave at the bayliner as it barrels down on them. That's when instinct kicks in, and they jump into the water just before the larger boat crashes into their skiff. Brian Mays is one of the fishermen on that boat. Brian, why were you at that location that morning in August?
We go down to Astoria every year in August for salmon fishing, and we had been out there only a couple of hours. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning when the incident occurred.
So who saw the boat coming?
All of us saw the boat coming.
That's basically like being in a little VW and having a Mack truck coming straight at you on a highway, right?
Correct.
I gotta ask what was going through your minds at this point?
Honestly, at that point, I was thinking that the driver of the other boat would see us and veer off to either side.
So at what point did you realize, oh my God, he's not gonna turn away?
Right before he hit us.
You jumped in the water? You were not wearing a life jacket?
No.
Not an easy decision to make, I guess, but the only one you could make at that point.
I remember thinking to myself, it's not normal to be jumping off of a boat into the ocean.
And seconds after you got into the water, the collision.
Yes. Actually, I jumped off right as the collision was occurring. The other boat drove over the top of ours and pushed it down into the water. And as I was coming up, the bottom of our boat hit my head. I was hit by debris.
The boat that hit you is actually the one that came back and fished you guys all out of the water?
2 of us.
What did they say to you at that point? You must have been like, my God, didn't you see us?
The driver of the boat, the only thing he said to me is, I wasn't paying attention, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all he said?
That's all he said. And then he got on his phone to, I'm assuming, his attorney and told them that he had just run over somebody. Then I really didn't say anything to him. I didn't have much energy left. We had treaded water for quite a while before we were picked up. And we just rode back to the marina and we got off the boat. Medical crew was waiting there for us.
What injuries did you sustain?
So I had injuries to my right knee, my right shin, and my right ankle, a concussion and some lacerations and punctures to my left arm.
And what about your fishing buddies?
They were okay. The female that we were with, she was more traumatized than anything else. And my other friend that was with me, he sustained some injuries to his left knee.
And you actually said that it was only after about half an hour when you got to shore that it kind of sunk in. What happened after you called your wife?
It did. When my wife came down and picked us up, she took us back to the camp that we were at in our truck, and we just broke down inside the truck, and we both realized how close we came to getting killed.
So I gotta ask, have you been back fishing since that happened?
This coming up August, we are going back to Astoria for the first time.
How do you feel about that?
A little skeptical.
Well, I don't blame you. You've had a little bit of history there, haven't you?
A little bit.
All right, well, Brian, thanks so much. I'm glad you've healed from the injuries and you haven't given up on your love of fishing as a result.
Not at all.
All right, catch some big ones out there.
Will do. Thank you, Elizabeth.
The operator of the bayliner, Marlon Larson, claimed equipment mounted on the dash blocked his view. However, his son-in-law told investigators that Larson often used his cell phone while driving the boat and had been using it off and on the day of the crash.
One of the men on the small boat now suing, and the other 2 say they also plan to. All 3 of them were hurt in that crash. The lawsuit accuses the driver of the big boat of crashing because he was on his cell phone.
Danielle Iredell is a criminal defense attorney. Danielle, how are the laws for driving boats similar or different from driving cars?
Overall, they're very similar, which makes sense. The laws for driving cars and boats are both created as a general matter to keep people safe, to keep drivers safe, to keep people on the roads or in the water safe, and to keep other drivers safe.
The driver of the boat, Larson, was charged with 3 counts of assault, 3 counts of reckless endangerment, and 3 counts of reckless operation of a vessel. He actually died before the case could go to trial, and now the victims are suing his estate in civil court. Is that unusual?
It's called a tortfeasor in the law. They'll pass away, and then you can sue the estate, which means any money you recover would come out of any money that they left behind for their heirs.
Are you surprised that Larson faced such a wide variety of charges?
But when we talk about the criminal justice system, a lot of times you'll hear the word overcharging. And that's when prosecutors throw the book at you. We have thousands and thousands of laws on the book that prosecutors can choose from. So oftentimes one incident will lead to a 20-count complaint. It seems really over the top, but this opens us up to plea bargaining, to allowing for a resolution of the case, to maybe a more fair charge, or go to trial.
Mays and McMahon were both taken to the hospital and treated for injuries. Larson was charged with 3 counts of assault, 3 counts of reckless endangerment, and 3 counts of reckless operation of a vessel.